Don't mind us, just go ahead and eat.
Sure.
We're kind of hungry, but, you go ahead.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. We're live, everyone. We're going to go live now. We are in Senate Minerals for Monday, February 26th. Noon recess. We're in room 4 of the State Capitol Extension. We're going to go to House Bill 34 first, and you're going to have some help, Representative Larson. We're going to bring up the big guns as well. You sit there, and you're going to have 2 neighbors that are going to be right there to back you up. Should you sway off the beaten track at all, they'll be right on top of you. So, okay, go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative J.T. Larson. I bring you today House Bill 34. We worked it over the interim. It's an annual cease and transfer funding bill. Page 1 is the title. Page 2 has some definitions. As we go into page 3, it lists some projects. Note that the carcass management project funding went down a little bit from last year because we used some funding for that. So we're excited about that and how things are going there.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. You said we used some money from that. Just remind me what you're talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Line 8, item 1. So I'm not sure exactly where that was used, so the department might have to answer that. I did read it, but I don't want to give you the wrong information. So, but it was at $100,000 and it went down to $77,303. And then the T's and the C's next to each project. T is transfer, C is cease projects. So, and then we just continue on to page 4. Municipal solid waste facility operator may apply for the funds. And then it gives the Department of Environmental Quality to authorize funds for the projects, and continues on with that language on page 5. And section 2 repeals the previous laws and makes this, section 3 makes this effective immediately. So stand for any questions, and I'm sure the department will clean up what I missed. So.
Thank you. Have any questions for the representative committee? Apparently not. Let's go straight to the department. Director, do you want to do the introduction?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Todd Parfit, Director of the Department of Environmental Quality, and with me is Suzanne Ingalls. She is the Administrator of the Solid and Hazardous Waste Division. This bill is part of a longstanding program that we've had since 2013, and we started out with 52 projects. To answer the specific questions, I'll turn it over to Administrator Ingalls to answer the question on the carcass management and any other questions that you might have.
Thank you. Administrator?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Suzanne Ingalls. I'm the Administrator for the Solid and Hazardous Waste Division. Specifically on the carcass management, I guess, line item, that fund was created in 2020 by the legislature, setting aside or dedicating specific funds for municipalities to apply for money to manage carcass waste. And this past year was the first time that we had a community come in to receive grant funding under that project. It was specifically for the Fremont County Solid Waste Disposal District, where they use the funds to purchase bear-proof containers to be placed in Atlantic City and then transport that waste to the Sandra landfill.
Thank you. Continue on.
With that, I'm happy to answer any other questions specific to the program.
If I could, I have one. Fremont had the only interest in that. It was kind of generated, all that was generated because of Fremont.
So far, that has come in for an application, Mr. Chairman. We've had discussions with other communities, but no one has come in for additional funding.
Thank you. Committee questions? Easy. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just so we're doing some due diligence and talking about this bill, just reading on page 4 with this carcass management to haul, bury, or compost dead animals. I guess the hauling makes some sense of like what that cost would be, and then the manpower to bury. But I'm just wondering about like composting dead animals, just so I kind of have a better understanding of how that would work.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, composting of the dead animals would involve a carbon source, typically wood chips, the purchase of that to assist, or any equipment needed to rotate the static piles and move those piles.
Back in 2020, part of the problem was we just, people were just disposing of carcass randomly. This opened it up to the opportunity at our landfills. Help me remember this, what we did. This has been 3-4 years now.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. It was giving a focus on carcass management to the municipalities in case they were interested in managing that type of waste, since it is a local decision if they want to receive and manage and dispose of it or treat it through composting.
Committee? Questions for the director while you have them as well? Representative Larson. Okay. Guess that'll do it. It's a very easy lunch hour for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee, what's your pleasure with House Bill 34, Solid Waste Municipal Cease and Transfer Funding? Moved and seconded? Moved and seconded. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6. Any discussion on the fiscal note? There being none, take the roll.
Senator Cooper,
Aye.
Senator Ellis,
Aye.
Senator Jones, Senator Rothfuss,
Excused?
Chairman Dockstader.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, there are 5 aye and 1 excused.
Thank you. Anyone have a desire on this bill? Okay, Senator Cooper has it. Next bill up for our consideration, House Bill 35, limitation on environmental rulemaking. Representative Conrad, please explain this bill.
Chairman, thank you. Members of the committee, it's good to see you again and be in front of you. Specifically, I'm speaking on behalf of House Bill 35, which is a limitation on environmental rulemaking. And I share with you and the committee here that at a high level, this legislation shall ensure that the Environmental Quality Council, EQC, shall not promulgate any rules or regulations that impose standards or requirements more stringent than the federal law. Rules or regulation on their federal program, the state maintains primacy, which is an important part, in which the state maintains primacy over unless, let me underscore unless, the department identifies the need for rules or regulations that are more stringent than those that are currently within the EPA and or other federal regulations or rules. There are a number of examples, and I'd like to ask the Director Parfit to share with some of those, but specifically I'll share 2 of those. One being the Ozone Green River Basin. There was designations on that basin that it was not in attainment. The DEQ was able to denote that and actually move that from marginal to a serious.
Would you repeat that location again?
That's the Ozone Green River Basin.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And within that, the DEQ actually ensured that that was a serious category as opposed to marginal as the EPA had qualified it. That allowed it to be more stringent. And in this case, that stricter designation allowed for quicker resolution of the issues, which was welcomed by specifically the oil and gas industry and allowed quicker activity in terms of economics. The second one, which is in the southwest corner, it relates to a phosphate plant. Hydrogen fluoride has been associated with the weight loss in cattle. The EPA currently, as we speak, does not have a standard. Agricultural community had concerns which were addressed by not only the facility, by the DEQ and users of the actual hydrogen fluoride, but as well as those who are producing cattle. I think it was a great collaboration effort between the 2, or at least 3 agencies, private, regulatory, and as well as we speak today, the opportunity to ensure that we have balance and checks and balances in this case. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer those, but more importantly, I can walk through the bill with you if necessary.
We can do that. Do you have a question?
No, I remember it now.
I don't remember. Recap the last one, how we solved that situation, Southwest Phosphate Plant.
Yes, in this case, and again, I'll refer to any clerical errors that I may portray, the phosphate plant surrounded, in this case, hydrogen fluoride, which has been associated with weight loss in cattle. Nearby ranchers and cattle owners had concerns over that. And unfortunately, in this case, there were no regulations or requirements as it related to the production and or the distribution of hydrogen fluoride. Therefore, in a good collaborative effort between landowners, cattle owners, and more importantly, the Wyoming DEQ, they were able to put together some regulations and standards and expectations to protect, in this case, the cattle in that associated area.
Okay, thank you. Walk us through the bill, please.
Yes, sir. Page 1. Again, this is a function of the Joint Minerals and Business and Economic Development Committee interim. I don't believe there's anything of note within page 1. If we can go to page 2. Page 2 is fairly a non-issue. I'd like to refer to page 3 specifically, as I commented earlier, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. On page 3, line 11, as I mentioned, the council won't promulgate any rules, regulations, but the most important thing I think that protects all of us is line 11, unless the department, in this case, the Department of Environmental Quality, identifies the need for rules or regulations. What that would do is then trigger on page 21, consult with the regulated stakeholders. Continuing page, or rather line 22, identifying a list of existing rules to be reviewed by the director of that department of the environmental quality. On page 4, lines 1, conform existing rules to the requirements of this act, including a timeline to conduct such a review. And the balance here is on line 4, report to the Joint Minerals, Business and Economic Development Interim Committee on the rules identified under the subsection for review. And that really concludes outside of the effectivity of July 1st.
You're catching that as page 3 unless the department identifies, and then you go on down and there's consultation, the timeline, and the report. Okay. Committee questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, could you explain the difference between the Environmental Quality Council and the Department of Environmental Quality? Just
Go ahead,
quickly.
Representative.
Chairman, thank you. Senator Cooper, the Environmental Quality Council is really, from my perspective, the body that determines regulatorily whether it's right or wrong, applicable or not. So if there's a dispute specifically between the industry, as an example, as it relates to a certain promulgation of a rule, that is taken up to the Environmental Quality Council, who then determines the applicability. From my perspective, Senator Cooper, they act as a hearing board to determine the legitimacy of the balance of the argument that maybe the Department of Environmental Control has promulgated or decided upon, and also the industry or the specific user that may not agree with the decision of the Environmental Quality Department.
Good answer for you. Yes, sir. Thank you. For the questions. Do we have our department up? Director Parfit? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I might, just to add a little bit to the explanation of the Environmental Quality Council and the Department of Environmental Quality, the primary function of the Environmental Quality Council is to do two things. One is to hear appeals to actions taken by the agency. So if we issue a permit, that can be appealed to the Environmental Quality Council, and they would serve as the hearing body. The other function that the Environmental Quality Council serves is that they are the entity that promulgates rules. So I'll bring rules forward to the EQC for consideration. They're the entity that actually promulgates the rules before they go to the governor for signature. So that's the first part. And I won't go into a walkthrough of the bill, but there are just some points here that I wanted to make, that the principal part of what we're doing here is very similar to what we do already. So we follow the Administrative Procedures Act on how we identify where we are more stringent than the federal agencies. We do that in the statement of principal reasons during the rulemaking process. And this is for primacy programs, as was mentioned by the representative. So what this bill would do is it would require that the EQC or the DEQ not have rules that are more stringent than the federal government or the federal rules without explaining where we are more stringent and why. So that will be moving forward, and that's in the first part of the bill, I think in H. The other part of the bill asks the director or the agency to consult with the regulated stakeholders to identify a list of existing rules to be reviewed by the director to conform with existing rules to the requirements of the act. And then two, would it require us to include a timeline to conduct such a review? And then lastly, we would report to the Minerals Committee on the rules that were identified for review. And the way we intend to do that is to work with our associations, so like the Petroleum Association, the Mining Association, general contractors, county commissioners, and municipalities. Those are the primary entities that we issue permits to. We do, just so you know what the universe is there, we have 104 rules as an agency. Of that, 69 of those rules have some federal oversight agency, either the Environmental Protection Agency or the Department of Interior Office of Surface Mines. So 69 rules of the 104 are what I would say related somewhat to a primacy program. The lion's share of that is within land quality. So there are 30 rules within land quality, 14 within air quality. So those are the two big ones that we would be looking at. And then what we would do is look at whether or not we would move forward with rulemaking to the EQC to determine if we need to make any changes to the existing rule, any of those existing rules. Again, we're not going to do that necessarily on all 69. It's the ones that are identified through our conversations with the associations if they're seeing one that they would like to have considered or reconsidered by the EQC. So that's a pretty quick summary of what the bill does. And I'll stand for any questions.
Senator has a question. Senator Ellis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the hydrogen fluoride example on the cattle that we just heard, which category, is that a land quality issue, do you think?
Mr. Chairman, that was an air quality.
That was an air quality, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's two separate offices for you in your department, though. How does that coordinate? Air and land? I mean, how do you work that?
Mr. Chairman, often facilities will be subject to more than one permit. So sometimes they'll have an air, a water, and a land quality permit. So, you know, a coal mine in particular, could have three permits. But this particular instance with the hydrogen fluoride only impacts the air quality permit. It would not impact a land quality or a solid waste permit.
Okay, thank you. Further questions for the director? Does it? Thank you. Appreciate it. Representative, do you have any other comments on this?
I would add, Chairman, this is a great collaborative effort that again demonstrates the willingness for the industry to work with our environmental quality department, which has been an extreme positive for all shareholders and stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. Committee, pleasure on this bill.
Oh,
Oh, you have some more comments. Sorry. That last meeting, I got so used to rushing everybody, so. Go ahead, Mr. Detail.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Travis Detail with the Mining Association. And in order to keep this being the most efficient and a thorough meeting, I will be quick. We support the bill, and we are already having those conversations with the agency to look at these rules and look where we can streamline those particular instances where The state rule is a little bit more stringent than the federal government. We've had a mechanism in place for a long time, and we look forward to continuing that relationship. So we support the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Questions for Mr. Detai? Alrighty, thank you. Anybody else in the room like to testify on this bill? Anybody else in the room? We have no one on the Zoom. Okay, now what is your pleasure, committee? Okay, moved and seconded? Moved and seconded. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. No significant fiscal impact, folks. Take roll.
Senator Cooper,
Aye.
Senator Ellis,
Aye.
Senator Jones,
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss,
Excused?
Chairman Dockstader.
Aye.
Chairman, there are 5 aye and 1 excused.
Thank you. Would like to present the bill?
Chairman, I'd like to suggest that Senator Rothfuss should carry this bill.
So volunteered. Put him on the list. Okay, anything else in this room? Any further? Senator Rothfuss, you've just been assigned a committee bill. You will be doing House Bill 35, limitation on environmental rulemaking on the floor.
Happy to, thank you.
Okay, very good. And there's some good people right here in the front and second row that can answer any of your questions, but we are done at this point.
Great, I vote aye.
You need to be here to protect yourself.
I sure do.
I did not love that bill.
That's unfair. Okay, anybody else in the room want to talk about anything, either of these two bills, 34, 35? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did not love that bill.
Yeah, just, if anytime I can help you out.
It's already happening. We mandate something. It's exactly
That's
happening.
good stuff.